Stop mentioning that shit. Not that it's not important, or I shouldn't like be proud of it, but um, I need to focus on here
Right.
what's happened and what has happened. Because Virginia is like ground zero, you know.
Yeah.
For a lot of this, for a lot of the influence that we have as black people all throughout the country, you know, and even in Africa too, man. So I mean, you know, I just think that we have to. I think one, we have to kind of break this notion of how we view slavery, because I say it all the time. I don't think we view slaves as human beings.
We don't. And
We don't.
we're ashamed
So
of it.
I think because we don't view them as human beings and because we're ashamed, it causes us to be ignorant of what happened and the things that happened that produce the conditions that we deal with now.
Right.
So we attribute it to things being innate just because out of ignorance we really haven't taken the time to do the study and the research. And like I'm still getting through this guy, Hugh Thomas.
Yeah.
Know his story. He's kind of racist too in his book, some of the shit he says. But nonetheless, man, that book, The Slave Trade, that shit like 600 pages long. That book is fucking phenomenal. The dude, John Blassingame from Harvard, that wrote that book, The Slave Community. Because I know you were the one that told me about the slave community. Yeah. I remember that was one of the ones you got recommended to me. You know, it's some great Marcus Rediker. There's like a lot of great work out there, man. But what I would like to see, you know, I know you were writing dynamics, and you know you want to go back and study anthropology. But I would like to see more scholars, man, come out and present new work and new data on the slave trade that happened within the United States as well. But it seems to be dominated by white scholars and intellectuals. There's not a lot of black people that are doing that research.
Yeah, and that's something that we should really be interested in. You know, because it explains a lot of the nuances that we have in common across the country. You know, and it shows a continuum. You know, showing that we are a real people as opposed to just being black Americans. Like I forget the author said. You know, he was good guy. You know, I remember reading about him when I took English at Reynolds. He was saying how black Americans are simply black Anglo-Saxons, and to a certain extent, that's true because we do have we do have a Western, Western ideals, because we grew up here, we're from here. However, anything that's different in us comes from our experience as a people. You know what I'm saying? When we are actually a collective. And something you said years ago that I hop on and get people upset. You said this shit years ago when you was like, shit, maybe we need to have a slave mentality. Because we just totally discount the mentality of a slave. We just totally discount the mentality of our ancestors. We told that they was completely subordinate, that they, just did what they, were told. They were
just automatons.
Yeah, like they were just automatons. You don't talk about how white babies were killed regularly. You know what I'm saying? You don't talk about how fights broke out. If Frederick Douglass, who's a known figure, fought his overseer, how many other people fought theirs? Just from a logical standpoint, how many people fought theirs?
I was talking to Dr. Holmes, and I want y'all to, I gotta find a way for y'all to meet, man. I want y'all to meet, but he was doing a lecture, and he was talking about how, there were quite a few plantations where they have built a safe shelter, so a place they can run away in case, they got attacked or.
Yeah.
Or something happened with the slaves on the plantation, they could run and hide and get the fuck away.
Yeah. I mean, why did those, it wasn't all of this, everybody wasn't just taking it with a grin. And also, one of the things that we believe, a lot of the things, I think I might try to do something, at least write a paper about how the misconceptions of slavery, like, we believe that that the slaves were like Christian by default. That whole pushing Jesus on slaves, that was late. That was late in the game. You know what I'm saying? There were times people didn't give a shit about teaching nobody no fucking religion. They didn't give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? You just couldn't do that African shit. They didn't want you to have no religion at all. I mean, you actually had a group of people who believed that black people were no more than brute animals to a certain extent. You know what I'm saying? To a certain extent. I mean, you really have people that believe that. I doubt if people who had daily interactions with black people truly believed it, but that's what the consensus was. The overwhelming consensus was that, black people pretty much, we didn't feel pain the same and shit like that. But somebody who, on a day to day dealing with black people would have to recognize their humanity to a certain extent, especially poor whites. You know what I'm saying? That's how come they picked up a lot of shit from us. That's how come our language is the same. We picked up a lot of shit from them too. But, that's why our language is, especially in the South, you can see it, how the language is similar. Because there was a lot of interaction.
Isn't that what, to your point, isn't that what that guy Thomas Sowell tried to argue in that book, Black Rednecks?
Yeah, man. Yeah, and
okay.
Yeah, that's I don't like him. Yeah, I don't like him. I mean, he
man. Like, what about his argument? You kind of,
because basically he's saying that black people just took the place of the poor whites. Like there was a time in southern cities, Richmond included, Charleston, where the poor whites were like, like the murder rate was ridiculous. They, crime, you had a huge underworld, you know what I'm saying, with illegal this and illegal that, or, drugs, counterfeiting shit, the whole thing. And it was like that black people just fell in line and took the white people's place, whereas the white people moved on to become, more reputable citizens. But what he ignores in that is what made those white people like that was lack of a family structure. You know what I'm saying? Was lack of support. And the slaves didn't take their place and just learn from them and did what they did. They are human beings too with those same ailments, and they fell into the same shit. You see what I'm saying? Where infrastructures were created for white people once emancipation occurred. You know what I'm saying? It was different, once emancipation occurred. But it's like he ignored, it's more of that like we just, start doing what they did. Why didn't we do this, that, and the third? You know what I'm saying? Just ignoring that you're having a pretty much motherless children running around with no guidance, for the most part. You know what I mean? I mean, you have people, like another misconception is that we took our slave master's last name. That's not necessarily true. That's not. That is not true. You didn't have to take any. You could say your name was any goddamn thing you wanted to say your name was. You didn't have to take it. That's bullshit. And some people did keep it because it tied them to something. It tied them to a plantation. Like I said, you have. We talked about this before. You have people who were sold away and they wanted to be found. I've read slave narratives where the slaves could be enslaved on a plantation that was a Whitfield plantation, but they came from a plantation that was a Adkins plantation, and they wanted to keep their Adkins name, so they always referred to themselves as Joseph Adkins, regardless of the plantation they lived on. So it's not all this control, like they try to like this intimate. It's not that much control over it. It's not like, okay, nigga, you came from the Whitfield plantation, so you're going to be a Whitfield. That's your name. It wasn't like that. Another misconception is white, light-skinned people worked in the house. It's bullshit. Bullshit. That whole light-skinned people worked in the house shit, that comes from after slavery when people wanted house service. And they would have like news and news clippings and shit. They would ask for light-skinned people. But during slavery, I've never seen anything documented that would suggest that that house slaves were light-skinned. As a matter of fact, I've seen the opposite. Whereas, if they were mulatto or mixed, they wouldn't want them in the house because it was a constant reminder of what they really were. You know what I'm saying? So, it's just these misconceptions. And we take, and that's because of the movies. Because what we fail to understand is like whenever like white people or even the way black people feel about themselves, it's not something that white people put out there so black people could feel this way or that way about themselves. Everything that's put into the media is for white folks. It's not for black people. You know what I'm saying? It's for white folks. It's not for us. And we get that same information. You know what I'm saying? That's how come in slave movies always normally some type of white person who was somewhat of a good guy. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So the white audience can identify with that person. You know what I'm saying? But I'm pretty sure there were cases, but no. That's why when you say that thing about slave mentality, I agree because I think during slavery, the majority of niggas knew what time it was. It wasn't no ifs, ands, or buts. You know what I'm saying? That slave mentality, you knew what was up. You knew how they saw you, you knew what time it was. It wasn't no like I can't believe that he treated me like that, or I can't believe that he called me nigga. You know, nah, you knew what was up.
You know what made me what
That
made
was
me
a
want
that was
that?
an ill junk shot. I want to let you know that was one of the illest junks. You said that shit. I wish I was like my homeboy could remember days and shit, cause he remember fucking like
Yeah.
the
When
day.
I read that book, Slavery in Cuba, and in that book, the writer I put that to call someone for a slave to call another person a white man was a great offense
Right.
and could possibly result in a fight or being killed. That was like one of the worst insults.
Right.
And I was like, damn, I never thought about it that way.
Yeah.
You know, like they look down on the white people. Like I'm like, man, like that's not. I'm speaking like from like 8 or 9 years ago when I read that. Like it kind of changed my perspective. It started to plant a seed and making me look at this a little bit differently. Because so many times we kind of have, I think, this we over embellish the power or the pristine way that we think black people viewed white people in the antebellum South or through other parts of the Caribbean, if you will, and the way they view themselves, and etc. And when I read that, I was like, man, this is different. Like, to be called a white man was an insult. You know, I'm like, now we want to say, you know, to act, quote unquote, to act or be as close as you can to Eurocentric behavior
Right.
is seen as the goal. And at one point, I'm like, man, we like, don't fucking call me that. I'm
Right.
nothing like that. I'm absolutely nothing like that.
Right.
Like that's crazy. Like that was crazy to me then when I read it. You know?
I read something a few years ago about a trader in West Africa, and like when even when he dealt with white folks, when they would ask him twice, you know, if they're like, okay, I need you to be here and da da da, I need you to be right here tomorrow with X amount of goods, and he was like, okay, and then he's like, are you sure you're gonna do it? And the African guy was like, you know, don't talk to me like I'm a white person. You know what I'm saying? If I said I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. I think in this particular language they spoke, they didn't even have a word for should. You know what I mean? But we take the human experience out of it. We take the fact that these people are human beings. You know what I mean? We take the fact that motherfuckers was saying fuck you when they went to the cabin. The same way we do now. But even more so. You know, the same way you can work with people now, and you know you're working with them people, man. You know how it is. But you can go home and be like, man, I'm glad I'm not around that shit. You know what I'm saying? You can really feel good to not be around it. And, you know, we had that then. And I think we could see the way we were then by looking at the way we are now. You know, like, why are we like we are? You know, as far as our attitudes and opinions. You know what I'm saying? Like I was telling the dude, I've been trying to figure out a way to put this on Facebook. But I was just like, this is a difference between blacks and whites because I remember when OJ was running in the Bronco. You know what I'm saying? I walked in my mom's room and I was like, what's going on? She's like, they chasing OJ. I was like, what'd he do? She's like, they said he killed his wife and her boyfriend. I was like, dang, for real? She's like, yeah. And you know what my first thought was?
What's that?
I was like, oh shit. I said it. I was like, oh shit, it probably won't be no more Naked Gun movies. Cause I ain't give a shit. You know what I'm saying? I ain't care. You know, I'm like, damn, it probably won't be no more Naked Gun movies. I love Naked Gun. You know what I'm saying? That's all I thought, because I won't really concerned of whether he did it or not. And, you know, you're innocent until proven guilty. You know, but I knew that with the publicity, there probably wouldn't be any more Naked Gun movies. And I was right. No more Naked Gun movies. You know what I'm saying? So,
yeah.
I mean, like, I didn't, you know, but I was 18. I didn't give a shit about, you know, what was going on in some damn L.A. with some fucking O.J. Simpson. I didn't care. You know, that wasn't my, you know, his wife or whatever. I didn't care. I mean, somebody died, you know, that's terrible. But, you know, I wasn't thinking about that. I'm thinking about what I'm gonna miss out of it, and that's probably no more Naked Gun movies. But
It's been no more Naked Gun movies.
yeah, and it hasn't been, sadly. But I mean, like we get to the point where we don't recognize the thing that we kept, the thing that we maintained, even throughout, all that enslavement and Jim Crow, and even unto this day, for a lot of us, and a lot of us are losing it. I'm pretty sure a lot of us lost it then. But one thing we maintain is we maintain a level of humanity. You know what I'm saying? Towards other human beings. We have. Because we could empathize with white people. Easy. We could look at a movie and completely be indulged in it, even if it's a white person. It doesn't have to be, because we recognize their humanity. We can cry, we can get happy, but it's like white folks, of course you can do it, but by and large, they look at us as if we're different, and we look at ourselves that way as well, which is incorrect. I'm tired of them fucking that Abo shit. That shit is getting. I hate that shit, man. If there's anything I hate that. I really do. That shit is just so ridiculous.
What's the premise? Because I see it, and one thing too, man, I deactivated my Facebook for a little bit. But I was contemplating deleting my Facebook, man. I was like, I don't know if that would be a good idea, because I feel like it's certain. I kind of need to have my ear to the street on certain stuff,
Mm-hmm.
And I like with this ADOS movement, I see people, either making videos that are pro ADOS or people that are arguing against it. So, like in a nutshell, what's the premise of their movement? Like, what are they trying to advocate?
They want black people to claim their native heritage in order so we could sue to get land that was taken away from us. They say that the Indians, the so-called Indians, and white people have been in cahoots to take our land. It gets very ridiculous. It gets to the point where they say,
damn, I'm super wrong.
Yeah, they say that Indians are actually the mulatto descendants of blacks and whites and Mongoloids. And we were the people that they saw when they got here. And if that were the case, it would be so easy to prove. Because you have so many different accounts of people coming into the West. You got so many different people that came. And you have so many different accounts that survived. And, you want to just pick from these ones where people say that they look like Ethiopians or, describe them as being dark skinned. You want to pick from those. But it would have been no reason for John Smith to not recognize that these people that he encountered in Virginia was now, Jamestown. It wouldn't benefit him anything to say that they weren't black. I mean, what difference would it have made if they were? You know what I mean?
What's that argument? Because, like you pointed out so astutely, is there's so much evidence as far as firsthand accounts, places like the Library of Virginia where you can go and you can actually look at some of these documents yourself. I mean, how do they justify that? Because there's so much mounting evidence that argues against that particular perspective. But how do they even explain that away, or they don't even take that into account?
They explain it away with saying that, that those accounts were created to aid in our illusion. You know what I'm saying? Like, that account they did that so that we would think that we are not the people that we claim we are. You know what I'm saying? That's why they did it. They did it in order to take our land, that's a silly argument. It's a silly argument. You don't have to lie to an already conquered people. You know what I mean? And then you have to account for all of the natives that you came into after, before the American advancement into the West past the Mississippi. And if you look at the intercontinental slave trade, between Virginia and the southern Mississippi, the Mississippi Delta or the Gulf region states, you'll see why a lot of times people would claim to be Choctaw and all that shit, because they went into a more virgin land coming from Virginia. They went to these virgin lands, and you got a lot of fucking teenagers and children that were sent down there, and who didn't know much about their backgrounds. You know what I'm saying? And they going into these lands that you had Indians here in Virginia, but in Mississippi, Alabama, and Louisiana, you would have had more, and they would have been more autonomous Indians. At that time, the Indians in Virginia and North Carolina pretty much you had autonomy in certain places, but by the 1800s, they were somewhat integrated into the American culture. You know what I mean? They bought and sold and yada yada. You know what I'm saying? But in the Mississippi region, in the Gulf region, it was not as Europeanized as it was here by that time. So you get down there, you escape, you hide out with these people. They might help you, they might not. But you got all these people talk about I'm like, uh, they Choctaw or they fucking Washita, man. That Dr. York shit is Dr. York, bro. He was really using the doctrine. He took some more scientific shit and put steroids in it. And a lot of that shit is where a lot of these people are getting this information. You know what I'm saying? Like everybody lied to us because they don't want us to know that we're this and we're that, or melanated people. We're indigenous to everywhere. Not understanding that by saying that you're accepting the European ideal and notion of race. It's like they don't even get that part. Like if you're saying that black people were in Asia, and there were black people in Asia. There were black people in Europe. However, those people aren't us and weren't us. Those people are the white people you see now. Those black people became those white people. Those black people became those Asian people. They're not us, and they're not. They're not just because they're black. Just because they were black at a point. They're not us any more than a white person is us.
Mm-hmm.
But we're looking at it from a racial aspect, all the while accepting their categories of race. And like, if I could let me drop a gem. Stop calling white people Caucasians. They're not Caucasians. Don't even give them that. Challenge that one too. They're not Caucasians.
Nell Urban Painter made me really go in that bag, man. Her book, I think that's something that should be required reading.
I think so too. I think so too.
Have you gotten a chance to read that book? I don't know who wrote it, but it's really based a lot on Virginia and North Carolina, but it's called White Trash, a 400-year struggle of race.
I remember seeing it, but no, I didn't read it.
Yeah, man, I started reading it, and I got busy reading something else, so I just got back to it, man. But, dude, like, the way, like, because they wrote a lot about William Byrd, and that and people like him, like Lord Fairfax and all these cats, they looked the fuck down on white people.
Yeah.
That was not in their bracket. It wasn't even like on some like, oh yeah, we had the same phenotype. It was like, y'all motherfuckers are backward. And they really look down on people in North Carolina. That was surprising to me too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they felt like North Carolina was a fucking backwater. And yeah, man, like I'm only in chapter 2, so like.
And to a lesser extent, people in Virginia still look at North Carolina like that. That's how come we can kind of live comfortably here while looking down on the South. Looking down on the rest of the South. We can look down on it. And we can look down on the North as well. As far as white Virginians are, you know what I'm saying? Look down on everything. Because there's a bit of arrogance. Because of that, what you said. Like I told you, I read the court case when the black guy went to court and the judge was like, where you from, boy? And he was like, North Carolina. And the judge just hit the guy with 30 days in jail. But they were trying to keep niggas from moving from North Carolina to Virginia. You know what I'm saying? Like instantly. That shit was fun. I gotta find it, man. I mean, I was at the Library of Virginia on Broad Street, and when I read that, and I remember I laughed. I laughed out loud.
My beautiful, brilliant Note 9 is on 14%. I haven't charged it in 2 days, and it's just hitting 14%. Just wanted to put that out there.
You still don't have an iPhone?
Yeah, man. I don't want children to suffer somewhere so I can have a phone.
Good looking.
But no, but I was gonna ask you on a different note, man. What you think about that Kobe situation, man?
That's just sad. That shit's sad, man. That shit's sad.
Yeah,
For real.
yeah.
They just show you that anybody can get it at any time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man. I just felt bad that, I feel for his wife that, you lost your daughter and your husband, in the same day like that. That's just fucking, that's nuts, man. And, Kobe was always, and people that know me, like, Kobe's always been my favorite basketball player. I really, like, a lot of people credit Jordan, but Kobe, I mean, I'm a little bit younger, but Kobe is kind of what got me into watching basketball, and I just remember, like, getting into the debates over him or AI or, is C-Mac better than Kobe and all of this shit. And, I just always been a fan. I respect Kobe that the fact that, he stuck with the Lakers through the really high points and the really low points. He never went anywhere. And, I just really respect him, man. It was just a shocker. And some comedian made a joke about Kobe dying in a plane crash, man. I don't know if you saw that. And he's getting, like, death threats and shit, man. Like,
people love Kobe. Bro. People love him.
Yeah, man.
I mean, I remember when he, I remember when they first started talking about him. You know what I'm saying? Like him coming out of high school and shit. And then, he was like, to be honest, I think the black community viewed him as kind of soft. When he came out, he was young. You know what I mean? He was young and, coming from Italy. You know what I'm saying? And all that shit. But he more than proved himself, man. I mean, that man was an absolute monster. For real. I ain't like how he did Shaq, but he ain't know. He ain't know, like, real nigga shit. You know what I'm saying? He ain't know how to carry it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But I think in time, they a lot of times you see it. Unless you're Dennis Rodman or somebody who can totally totally just become part of white society. You know what I'm saying? I think he began to see it. He began to see it. He began to understand, what it was. Because when you come from, when you're in a military type family, or his father played basketball in Italy, so he was kind of sheltered. He didn't know a lot of, like when a lot of continental Africans come over here, it sounds like we're just complaining about nothing. You know what I'm saying? Because they don't really they don't know enough about our history to take it seriously. You know what I mean? They don't understand. But you here for a while, you'll realize it. You'll realize it when you can't hide behind that Nigerian shit. When you being Nigerian doesn't matter. And wait a second, bro. Wait a second. Yeah, I'm still on the phone, man. I'm trying to make it happen. I'm trying.
That light skin Joe, the one that everyone always likes, that I know.
Mm-hmm.
You have her number. Like, does she stay in Richmond?
Nah, she stay in Petersburg. Yeah. She stay in Petersburg. I'll hit her up and I'll give her your number and tell her to call you.
Huh?
I said, I'll hit her up now.
Can you hit her up and hit up, what's her name? Cash.
Oh, the tall, light-skinned one.
Yeah, Cash and her friend. Mainly VIP, because this is short notice. But my boy is willing to pay $80 for the booking fee each.
All right. Well, I'm not gonna. I can't.
They don't have to drive.
Yeah, I get it. I got you, but I can't cut myself completely out of the picture. You know what I'm saying?
If you can let that light skin one in Petersburg, if you can have her call me, I appreciate it. And if you can have cakes, if you can get them, that's cool. But I'm just saying, I really need them to call me since I need to have their number since I gotta come pick them up.
Oh no, I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that. All right, let me you kind of caught me in the middle of something, but I'm trying to do for you and what I'm working on. So give me a second. I'm gonna hit you back.